Once you've kind of gathered all your content, you have to format a table of contents for the document. And you want to think about, right, you've just spent some time analyzing how usable technical writing documents have been. And now you're going to produce an internet guide, and you want your document to be usable. So including a table of contents is one of the simplest and easiest ways to increase usability. But you also want to think about the design of the document a little more holistically as well. As we kind of format documents to make them usable, you want to think about how headings and subheadings, right, are creating visual cues for your readers. So this kind of graphic just shows you that obviously you have a main title, it's larger, you have headings which are going to be a little bit smaller font, and then of course the main body of your text is going to be different as well. And you can see with this example that they're using two different kinds of fonts. So they have a serif font, which has the little tails on it, and a sans serif font for the body of the text, which doesn't have those little tick marks on each of the letters. And that's a pretty typical graphic design choice, to have sort of your larger titles and headings in a serif font, and then choose a sans serif font, which are sometimes described as being easier to read. So think critically about what fonts you might choose as you start formatting those headings and subheadings. For this assignment, you have to create a table of contents that has up to 2 levels, right? Which means that you're going to have main headings and at least some kind of subheadings. So you want to think about having styles for at least these first 3, a title, a heading 1, and a heading 2. But I would probably include a heading 3 just in case you need to like extend your subheadings a little bit. I'm going to use an example that I created. So my area of expertise is medieval literature. So I created this internet resource guide. You can see that up here is all my front material. Who is this guide for? What kinds of things do you need to know about before you use the guide? What are some helpful tips to use the guide? This is all the material that you need to include in your front matter. So I've written all that out already. You can see that I've also used like bullet points to help format the text, again, make it usable, easy to read. I have gone through and added in some of my sources. I have an online book. I have the Chaucer Concordance, which again, contain the URL, and then I include, this is my abstract. You can see I haven't just written a paragraph, but I've sort of thought about how the text could be usable for a reader by adding bullet points, for instance, and adding like subheadings, right? What is it? How do I use it? Which I actually haven't written that section. I might include a screenshot of what that actually looks like in it, and I would need to explain, where do you search something in? Then like what happens when I press search, like what kinds of results am I getting? And then I have this section of additional tips. And so then I have my other sources, and I've only written out 1 abstract. You will write out 3. But I've sort of gathered all of these different sources that I'm going to need, such as a periodical, an index of periodical literature, and some other internet resources. I have also further organized the sources that I found into 2 larger sections, which I kind of describe in what's included in this guide, right? So I have some sources that are related to conducting primary research on literature, and then I have resources for conducting secondary research. Depending on what topic, you might think about how those 7 resources that you're gathering relate together in different subsections. Again, that's going to help make the guide more usable for your readers if you're able to kind of section them off. The other thing I probably want to do to make this a usable guide is to kind of add page breaks. I'll probably actually want this title to be on its own page. And so I'm going to go back to insert, and I'm going to add a page break after my title. And I can come back and sort of format the title page later. So then I'm going to include some kind of title here that's going to say, I'll just call it a preface. So then my next piece, I'm going to add a page break. My first section is resources for primary research. So I actually might want to make that its own page, and I can kind of add like an image or some interesting visuals for this sort of like subtitle page. So I'm going to add another page break. The Riverside Chaucer is my first resource, so after that I'll add another page break. So now you can see, right, my guide is getting to be quite long because I have 7 different sources about. They're kind of each going to have their own page. Okay, now that I've sort of added the appropriate page breaks, and this is important because then I can go work on the document piece by piece, right? So I could continue typing in my Chaucer Concordance, I could add images, right? I can fill out this section. And if it kind of scrolls over onto this page, it's going to knock my next source onto the next page. So I don't have to worry about reformatting that again. Okay, so now I want to format my headings so that I can set up my table of contents. So I'm going to go back to my home page, and you'll notice that here in this box, right, these are called styles. This is what we're going to work with to format the headings. Word has default. Right, you can see normal, that's just going to be the text body, which is now my default is set at Times New Roman 12 point. Let me go look in my font bank here. Maybe I'll use this, Avenir, for my body. And I'll use Garamond for my titles. We'll see if that looks good together. I don't know. But I'm just going to format them and see what happens. So you'll see if I click on styles and I click on this little like arrow thing, again, in order to do any of this formatting features, you have to have the desktop version of Word downloaded. I'm going to pull this up, right, which is going to tell me that I have like the normal, which is the body text, a heading 1, a heading 2. You can see I can format a title, a subtitle, emphasis, intense emphasis, right? So like I can go in and format all of these things. But what I'm going to go down here is click on this A with the little check mark, the manage styles. And this is going to allow me to set all my default style headings. So I'm going to be on this tab that says edit. My normal, I said I was actually going, oh, so I have to click modify. I was actually going to make it Avenir. This is going to be my normal font. I'm going to set it at 12 point. And you can see I can also set all of my spacing. So I want it to be flush left. I want it to be normal spaced. And so I'm going to say add this to the style guide. Now I'm going to format my title. So I'm going to come here. I want to modify this. I actually want to use, Garamond, and I'm going to make it bold for the titles. And this says a 28. I'm just going to increase that a lot, actually. I think I'll make it to 48. So this is going to be the titles. I want my title to be centered. So I'm going to put it in the center. And then I'm going to press OK. And then I have my title has been formatted. So now I'm going to go and fix my headings. So heading 1, we'll go in and modify that. You can see I can also change the color. Well, we'll use Garamond for at least my first and second level heading. But I also want it to be in the middle. So that one's good. And I'm going to go in and do that same thing to my other ones. We'll see how this looks. Maybe I'll go in and modify it again. And then I'm going to use, you can see already, like Word has defaulted, right? So they're using the text that I've put as my body text out of size 14, which is basically what I want it to be anyway. But I do want this one to be italicized. So now my style headings have been set. Everything is in normal text right now. So now I need to go in and just highlight them and change them. So I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to make it the title. Then this is my heading 1, right? So it's going to put it in the middle. And then these are my heading 2. We'll see. I think that I probably want that to be bold. Okay, so I can still go in and change all of these, right? Actually, I think I need another heading here, which is going to say what to know before using this guide, something like that. Because this is actually a level 3 heading. My heading 3 and 4, when I just originally pulled this up, it wasn't there. So if I wanted to find it, I can just pop it up in this little like extra box. But see, so the styles I've picked aren't great. There hasn't been like a huge distinction maybe I need to make it a little bigger, or I think I want to add bold to this heading. But instead of just like going through and bolding all of these, power of the heading styles is I can go in here and I can modify the styles again. So heading 3, I've said I don't want it to be blue, and I think I want it to be in a different font, so I'm going to put it in Garamond. And then those things that I've already formatted, they're going to immediately, right, reformat all of them. Okay, one other thing to keep in mind, this is a common error that I tried to point out in your memos. Headings don't require punctuation, so like I don't need to put a colon here after my heading. But like this is a question, it doesn't have to be. If I wanted to ask a question, you can add punctuation, but other than that, you don't need to add punctuation to your heading. I'm going to go through and format everything, and then we'll come back and format a table of contents. Okay, I have gone through and added all of my headings. Everything has been formatted. First, we're going to fix the page numbers because I don't want my first page to have a